All right, so welcome to, what was I going to call this segment, Cooking with Aha. Today I am going to demonstrate how to make pho. And the first thing when it comes to making a pho, so pho is a Vietnamese soup. And it's super simple. It's one of those things that you can put whatever you want in it. It's really all about the broth. And that's what we're going to start with today. We're going to make a good broth. So I am taking a little bit of a cheat here, as in I am not making a beef broth. It's generally made with beef broth, but if you are vegetarian, feel free to make this with a vegetable broth. I don't have vegetable broth, otherwise I would. Otherwise, everything about this soup today is going to be vegetarian. I am not adding any additional meat to it, but this point right here, it is not vegetarian. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to make our broth. So what we have in here is we actually have 1 can of beef broth, 1 can of chicken broth, and now I'm going to add some other flavors to it so that it isn't just broth. The base of any pho is a good broth. Okay, that's really what pho is all about, is broth. It really doesn't have much to do with what you put in it. I mean, those add things to it, but really it's about the broth itself. So I've added a tablespoon of soy sauce. By the way, this is about 4 cups of broth in here. About a tablespoon of oyster sauce to this as well. We're only going to add about a few drops of fish sauce. And yes, fish sauce is actually a very important ingredient to pho. So we're going to add a little bit of that as well. I am going to add a little bit of spice to this. I don't want to add a lot of spice. So we're going to add about 1 teaspoon of garlic chili paste to this. A lot of people prefer sriracha. I don't like sriracha. I don't think it has a lot of flavor. So if you're looking for something that does provide a lot of flavor as well as heat, try a chili garlic sauce. Sold in most Asian sections of the grocery store. Okay, to this we are also going to add some fresh ginger. I'm not really going to do anything fancy with this ginger, but I'm going to show you a quick, easy way to peel it at your home if you don't have ginger. The cool thing about ginger is you don't need a peeler to peel it. You just actually take your spoon and you just take the side of a spoon and the ginger peels. Okay. This is a really good and easy trick for peeling ginger, and it gets right into all the grooves and crevices. And I'm just going to drop chunks of the ginger into my broth. Okay, so I'm just going to peel it and drop it right in. Okay, so I've got a decent sized chunk here. I'm going to put that inside of my broth. One thing about Vietnamese pho broth is it does contain things like cinnamon. It contains usually some star anise. I don't have anise. I don't really care for it too much. And clove. So I am going to put in the whole clove. As you can see, I've got whole cloves here, and I put in this 1 cinnamon stick. And you put that in there, and then we're going to let this boil for a good 30 minutes. And then after that, as it cooks, we will start tasting it and seeing what it tastes like, seeing if the flavor is quite right where we want it. If not, we will add some more of these ingredients. Okay, so when it comes to pho, okay, it really is all about the broth, but the broth isn't the only thing that we care about. So the rest of it from this point forward is, 1, we're going to cook some rice noodles. I will show you the process for doing that in just a few moments. But the next thing after that is all about knife work. So it's about getting your vegetables and stuff ready to go. So that's exactly what we're going to do now, is I'm just going to do knife work and show you some of the things that I'm doing for my pho. And this is just with what I have in my house. And my son says hello. So I've got some green onions here, and I'm just going to cut the greens. So you can call these chives, scallions, really whatever you like. And I'm just going to put them in a bowl. The important part about pho, it's all about the mise en place. It's all about getting it ready to go so that when it's actually time to eat, all you're doing is building the soup, okay? And I'm just going to chop a little bit of green onions there. I'm going to put the rest of the back because don't need any more than that. Okay. I'm going to move on to the next item. I've got some radishes here. Not a lot of people like radishes in my house, so I don't need to do too many. But I am going to do a few. Okay. And I'm just going to thinly slice them. And whenever you are cutting things, please make sure you are holding your hands properly. Okay. Got some radishes. One more radish. The radishes is there to add, one, it's going to add a little bit of crunch to this dish, but a radish is also going to add a little bit of spice because radishes have a little bit of heat to them. If you want to make sure your radish is stable, cut off the side and it will give it more stability as you're cutting. And this way it doesn't rock back and forth. It is really important as you're doing knife cuts to ensure that your knife is nice and sharp. If it's not sharp, it's actually more dangerous to cut with. Okay, so radish is done. I'm only going to do, because I said I'm only doing a couple. I don't have a lot of people who care for radish in my home. Okay, I am going to do some mushrooms with these. I have baby portobello mushrooms that I'm going to use. You can use any mushroom that you choose. And I'm just going to do 4 of these baby portobello mushroom caps. They have already been washed. I don't like to wash my mushrooms under running water. I prefer to just use a damp paper towel and to brush the tops and sides off to ensure that there is no dirt. Okay. Just going to thinly slice them. The key with pho is whatever you are using should be thinly sliced because you want to make sure that it actually cooks. Traditional pho is served with a little bit of steak, so a little bit of thinly sliced beef, like a round eye steak. I am going protein-less on that route. The proteins are just going to come from the vegetables that we have today. So by putting mushrooms, if you like meat, mushrooms are meaty. They're a meaty vegetable. They will give you that sense of meat in your pho. Okay? So that's kind of what our mushrooms are acting as today. Otherwise, there's no actual meat product in this other than my broth. Traditional Vietnamese pho does involve a good hearty beef broth that is actually cooked all day, or if not a couple of days. Okay, like I said, I cheated and I bought a canned broth, and that's what I'm using for mine, and that is also what you can do for yours. I'm just going to clean my board up a little bit here. Okay, I'm going to move on to a little bit of regular onion. So the green onion is there to add a little bit of color, as well as a little bit of flavor. So it doesn't have a strong onion flavor, so I'm also going to offer my family the choice of just a nice yellow onion. And again, thinly slice. And I'm not, I cut it through the root, just like I did last time. Okay. Put my onion slices in a bowl as well. Okay. I am going to take this moment and I'm going to go and wash my hands. I'll be right back, and then we're going to cut up some other items real quick. It is important as you're washing your hands that you wash underneath your fingernails, you wash between your fingers, the palms of your hands all the way up to your wrists. Really, when I teach my students how to wash hands, we actually teach them to wash to their elbows. So it is important that you wash diligently. Hand washing has never been more prevalent than it is now with this COVID-19. So please just make sure that you do wash your hands. All right. A couple other things that we are going to put in this is I am going to put a bell pepper in this. Okay. I am going to cut off a little bit of the top. This is a really uneven bell pepper. Okay, I'm going to save this. I can use those pieces for something else. I'm going to make a slit down the side, stick my knife in there, and I'm just going to unroll my bell pepper as I cut. And I'm just going to continue to unroll it as I cut. Okay. And now I have the center, the seeds, and everything are there. Okay, from this point forward, I can do whatever I want. I'm going to cut this a little bit smaller to make it a little bit easier. And again, I'm going to thinly slice this bell pepper. You can go with whatever color bell pepper you choose. I chose a yellow because I think the yellows, I like the sweetness that the yellow bell pepper offers. It could be whatever you would like. Okay. It's also going to add a little bit of color to my dish. And I am cutting it with the flesh, the skin side is down, because my knife will go through easier through the flesh of the bell pepper than it will through the skin of the bell pepper. Okay. And as you can see, I'm not having any problems getting my knife to go through that. Okay. Whereas if I had it skin side up, my knife would have a little bit harder time getting through that bell pepper. Okay. I doubt I'm going to need a lot of bell pepper. I doubt many of my kids are going to eat it, but I've got a bowl of bell pepper here, as well as, so right next to my mushrooms, over here on this side I have onion, and I have my bell pepper. I'm going to save this bell pepper because I don't think I need it. I'm going to wipe down my board real quick, get some of this bell pepper off of it. Wipe down my knife again. Okay, so some people like spice. And most of you guys like spice, most of my students. The one thing they said they would add to beef bourguignon is some chili. So that is exactly what we're going to do. We're going to slice up some jalapenos here. We're going to thinly slice them. And we are just going to, that's it, thinly slice them so that we can add them. If we would like to, we can add them to our pho later on. I need to get a dish. I didn't get one for my jalapenos. Okay. So I'm going to add my sliced jalapenos to my dish over here. I just have a couple of jalapenos out. Again, you don't need that many because if you put jalapenos in it, you're not going to put a lot in it anyway. Most people don't. You put about 4 or 5 in your dish. And in my home, not everybody in my house is going to put a jalapeno in it. So I don't need a lot of jalapenos, but whatever I don't use now, I can use for something else. I could pickle these later and make my own pickled jalapenos for nachos later on. Okay, so this is the next step of our mise en place. After this, I'm going to show you how to make rice noodles. Hi, the nice thing about using rice noodles is that rice noodles are easy. Okay, there's multiple ways you can do rice noodles. One of those ways is the soaking method. This is actually my favorite method because there's not a lot of work that you have to do with this. All you do is take the noodles and you put them in a bowl, and you take usually some very hot tap water. I didn't want to wait for my tap water to get hot, so I actually heated it up just a little bit so that I can make sure my water was nice and hot. You just put your noodles in there and you're just going to let them soak. Every package is a little different. These are vermicelli rice noodles, so they're super, super thin. And that's actually what I prefer when it comes to pho. I want my noodles to be nice and thin so that they don't overpower the entire soup. So I went with the vermicelli. I've got these soaking, and I'm gonna let these soak for 15 minutes. After that, we are ready to actually build our pho. All right, so now we are ready to build our pho. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do is we're actually gonna start with a little bit of our rice noodles. Okay, I'm gonna take some of those noodles and I'm going to put them into my bowl here. I don't want a lot. We don't want the majority of this soup to be noodles, so you gotta watch how much noodles we put into it. So I'm just going to put a little bit of noodles into my bowl. And then now I'm going to go through and I'm going to pick some ingredients to put in. I'm going to put in some, I'm going to put a little bit more bell peppers. And at this point, this is all about, this is how you make it look good. Okay, depending on where you layer your food will determine how it looks. A little bit of scallions in there. I do want a few fresh onions because I do like onions. And I'm going to put some mushrooms in here as well. Okay. And now I'm ready to pour the broth over my pho. Okay, so I'm going to take my nice broth. Then I'm going to pour it in. One thing, I neglected to say this earlier, it's great, it's always served with some fresh herbs like cilantro and maybe a little bit of wedge of lime. I like to serve mine with lime because I like mine with a lot of lime actually. So I'm going to do a couple wedges of lime here. Just squeeze that in there and then give it a good stir. And then in here, everything is going to cook a little bit more. The broth, as it was cooking, I can smell the cinnamon, I can smell the clove, but I can't actually taste it. That's the nice thing. But I can taste everything else that I added to it. Got a nice little bit of chili paste. If it's not spicy enough for you, you can also add a great little chili oil. Don't add too much because it does have a nice little kick. This is just a hot chili oil that I found at Smith's that I added to it. And there you go. There you have it. You have pho for 4.